Hey y'all, welcome to this week's show. Today we're going to discuss one of the most common, ubiquitous, underrated herbs that I know of. You probably have this one growing in your yard right now. And I have discussed it before in various contexts. But today I want to devote a whole show to it, and it is Smilax, or greenbrier. Now, like Schisandra, our native Smilax are very similar to other herbs that have been popularly used in herbal medicine. However, our native Smilaxes have proven medicinal use on their own, whereas our native Schisandra really does not have any documented medicinal use. Our greenbriers do. Yes, Smilax is greenbrier. It is that weed, that thorny vine that grows in your bushes, grows up your trees. You're walking through the woods and you're going to run into it and it's going to tear your skin, or, it's just a pain. Really, truly one of the most common plants I know of. The interesting thing about Smilax is while several members of the family have been exhaustively researched, most haven't. But it seems they can be used interchangeably. Now, some people dispute this, but in my experience, they really do seem to be quite similar. Now, this is greenbrier, this is catbrier, this is even carrion flower, probably the largest member of the species that grows in North America, actually. Briars. These are just briars, okay? These are, the things you've been, pulling out and mowing down and trying to get rid of since childhood, right? Those little thorny vines with large, almost like heart-shaped leaves. Some of them really have been considered, especially in early America, as among the most valuable of medicinal herbs. There are also members of the Aralia family that are so close to being Smilax, I don't even know how to say it. The Aralias have been more researched because they tend to be among our adaptogenic herbs. Let's think of spikenard. I mean, think of, gosh, there's so many. Honestly, it's a big family. There are 22 varieties of Smilax with documented use in herbal medicine. Um, let's see. Sarsaparilla being the most famous and most popular. Next to, if we were to go back in history of America and the Americas, North America and South America, when our ancestors came here, they found the continent just absolutely covered in briars. And our first big export after furs, I mean, really North America especially, was founded by fur traders. The main thing our ancestors came here to do was kill animals and sell their fur to Europe. People did not come here for whatever reason you've been taught in history. They came here because they wanted to make some money, and the best way to make some money was to come here and trap beavers or mink or otter or oh golly, so many mountain lions and bobcats and all that, and bears, and I mean, whatever, and sell those furs back to Europe, where they were used to make anything from fur coats to beaver felt hats. 200-300 years ago, we didn't have polyester, and we didn't have inorganic fabrics. We didn't have stuff that was made out of petroleum byproducts that we would consider to be clothing. Okay, clothes were mostly made from flax, that was just linen, and wool, that would be the fur of sheep and such, alpacas, and similar animals like that. And we had fur, and we had leather, of course, and both leather and fur, including felt. I mean, you think about the felt on a pool table, or the felt that was made to make a beautiful Stetson hat, was made from the fur of a beaver. Still to this day, here in 2026, a very nice hat. And I mean, you have to remember, until John F. Kennedy, everybody wore hats. Kennedy, he had health issues, okay? He had a bad back injury. He had, I cannot remember the name of the disease right now, but it caused his body to produce cortisol. Anyway, he had to appear to be more youthful than he was if he wanted to be president of the United States and a leader. He had to look young and fit and muscular, and part of that was he didn't wear a hat. Before John F. Kennedy, every man in America and Europe and the Western world wore a hat every moment of the day when he left the house. It could be a cowboy hat or a fedora or a top hat, a bowler, a cap. I don't mean a ball cap. I mean like a flat cap. Like you associate with like Ireland or Yorkshire or something like that. With the exception of the cap, which is generally made of a cotton or other linen, something like that. Well, nice ones are still made of wool, actually. A nice flat cap, that a gentleman would wear, is still made of wool. But the top hat of Abraham Lincoln was made of beaver fur. Your fedora was made of beaver fur. Your Stetson is still, or Resistol, or any nice men's hat is still made of beaver fur that's turned into felt. It's like processed, and it becomes a material that sheds water, of course, and is very insulating and warm. And a quality hat like that is still really worth what they charge for it. I mean, a Stetson is not a cheap hat. It's never been a cheap hat. And there's several other companies that make nice men's hats. They're made of beaver felt, and they will last for hundreds of years. I have some of my grandfather's hats that are still just as good, just as warm, just as sharp edges, just as classy as they were when he wore them in the 1940s. Men wore hats, women wore hats, and most of their hats were also made out of beaver felt. But Back then, everybody also wore fur, and we really should be today. It's a natural material. Our environment. How would I put this? Okay, there are different classifications of animals. Okay, when the Native Americans came to America, you remember there's no such thing as a Native American. It's just who got here first. The country was covered up in like buffalo and such, and those buffalo were food. They were herd animals, and a herd has to be maintained. Literally, herds have to be maintained by predators. If you have wolves, for instance, that eat 30% of the deer population every year, that herd stays strong and healthy and vibrant. You take those wolves away, and disease and starvation spreads. Literally, the easiest way to destroy herd animals is to let them be and not have anything be a predator upon them. As especially Europeans moved in, they started raising goats and sheep and pigs and chickens and cows and horses. They had to, of necessity, reduce the predator population. You could not have a nice herd of cattle and have a lot of wolves around or bears around. Well, as they did that, the unfortunate consequence was that the deer population exploded. Well, the elk population exploded. I mean, you can just name it, right? As that happens, literally that can lead to extinction. Man becoming the top predator, hunting and trapping, maintaining and managing those populations is absolutely essential to their survival. People get all worked up and weird about hunting and trapping these days. If you don't, those animals go extinct. We've seen just in recent years mad cow disease and mass wasting disease just decimate the deer population. The way you prevent that is you cull the herd. I know, vegans and vegetarians and animal rights activists don't like to acknowledge this. They can't understand it at all, but there has to be predation to keep herd animals in check. There also has to be predation to keep certain animals like beavers in check. If you don't reduce your beaver population by eating them or using them as clothing, which is what people have done, Native Americans and settlers have done for literally thousands of years on the North American continent and South America, etc., and everywhere in the world, the beavers will dam up every river, and they're very, actually, extremely territorial. They will try to kill each other. I mean, don't think that they're, living in some blissful Disneyland utopia somewhere. And everything is flooded, and it negatively impacts other species. I mean, if you turn the entire continent of North America into a beaver swamp, you have no buffalo, you have no deer, you have no elk or moose. I mean, moose don't mind a swamp too much, but elk cannot. Then, you get into your big cats, your mountain lions and your bobcats and all that, coyotes and such. Anyone who's grown up watching Disney movies, who thinks like walking in the woods is like Bambi or something, has never encountered coyotes. I read, I guess it was a meme or something online recently. I think it was a quote, maybe from Dostoevsky or Nietzsche, somebody like that. He said, no animal is as cruel as a human. If you think that, you've never been around coyotes. Coyotes, an adult coyote, male or female, generally will eat 70 pounds of meat per day. 70 pounds per animal. They eat everything. They eat everything from mice to deer to whatever they can get. If they can get a dog or a cat or a person, they will. What they are, if you got kids listening, turn this off for a second. Okay? Coyotes are, yes, like wild dogs. They're somewhere between a dog and a wolf. What they do is they pick a deer, usually a doe, that is either pregnant or has just given birth, encircle her, rip her guts out, and leave her alive and move on to the next target, knowing she'll be dead the next day or the day after and they'll come back. Coyotes are extremely cruel, vicious, bloodthirsty. There is no such thing as empathy, or I mean, just forget it. Okay, I mean they will. If they see a child, they will do the same thing. Just come, bite it in the stomach, rip its guts out, move on, come back and try to eat it the next day. I mean, that's what a coyote does. They are hardwired to do that. Coyotes actually have no true predator other than man. If it were not for human beings killing coyotes, we would have no deer. We would have no turkeys. I've seen them decimate a turkey population in 6 months. We'd have no cattle. We'd have no, I mean, cows, goats, chickens, pigs, forget it. Coyotes are an apex predator unless there are wolves in the area, at which point wolves become the apex predator. I mean, then you have mountain lions and bears and such as that. Without hunting and trapping, and you may have issues with trapping, but if you do, you probably don't know a lot about trapping because the way it's portrayed on television and the internet and etc., movies, is absolutely false. Trappers do not use traps with teeth, for instance. They may have, 100, 200 years ago in very specific situations, especially for bear, really big bears, but that's illegal now. Traps do not have teeth. Traps have offset jaws. They're laminated. They basically are nothing more than handcuffs. The animal essentially is handcuffed. They're not hurt. Maybe a little bruising. I mean, I put my hand in a trap. My dog years ago was really bad for going after the neighbor's chickens. The neighbor put out some, I guess, like number 2 traps or something, the kind of thing you use for a coyote, essentially. He didn't know it was killing his chickens. He thought it was a coyote. He caught my dog. I went and got the dog, and he had a little bruising around his paw. That was it. And it taught him not to go back. Okay? He was not hurt. You can stick your hand right into that kind of trap, and it's not going to break a bone. It's not going to penetrate the skin. It's not even going to hurt. Okay? I mean, no more than just like whacking your hand with a ruler. I mean, if you've ever been hit with a ruler across the back of your hand, that's about as bad as a coyote trap gets. Most traps used these days in our time are not even to that extent. If you've got a laminated trap, which means it has a wider jaw, it distributes the pressure, it actually doesn't really bruise at all. If you have an offset jaw trap, again, it's like a pair of handcuffs. Most folks that are, say, trapping raccoons or possums use what's called a DP or a dog-proof trap. That's a trap that is purposely designed so a dog can't get trapped in it. It's a very extremely humane trap. It literally just grabs the foot or hand, whatever you want to think of it, of an animal. I mean, raccoons kind of use their front paws like hands. They just reach in there to try to grab something, and it just closes around their wrist, and they won't let go. And I mean, they're not like, again, this isn't Disney. Animals don't have like emotions. They're not like, oh, I'm so scared, I'm trapped. No, they're like, oh, something stuck on my hand. And then like 5 minutes, oh, something stuck on my hand. And they'll just sit there. They don't, that's it. I mean, they literally have no more linear thought than that. In those old like stories of, say, a wolf chewing its leg off to get out of a trap, That wolf was not thinking, I need to chew my leg off to get out of this trap. No, what happened was the old traps, especially before they had the offset jaws and the laminated jaws and all that, would cut off the circulation to that foot. And so they no longer felt it. And so they were not even aware they were chewing on their foot. Okay, is that cruel? Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, is it more cruel to do that? And then, the next day you find the wolf, shoot in the head. It's dead in, blink of an eye. No real trauma whatsoever. Or to let that wolf, what they do is they kill calves. I mean, it could be a doe. I mean, for deer, yes, doe, but I really mean, the baby deer, whatever they call those, fawns, yes. Their main prey is fawns. Their main prey is calves if you have cattle. Their main prey is lambs if you have sheep. They're not wanting to fight the ram or the steer or the bull or, go down the list. They're going for the weakest newborn animal they can find. So using a humane trap is essential for keeping livestock. I remember a few years ago, very young girl down in South Carolina. She was a friend of mine, 19, had 2 kids, got involved in high school with a pretty bad guy. He went to jail for meth, and she had to figure out how to raise, 2 kids on her own with like no education. Okay, smart, really, a good person. She had taken over his parents' farm, and she's trying to raise 2 kids by herself. I mean, it was a bad situation, and we became friends, and we would talk, and she would ask me advice on farming, advice on keeping chickens in this instance, and turkeys. She raised a flock of turkeys. Well, she needed those chickens and turkeys not just to put food on the table, but to sell and feed her family and pay the bills. I mean, this was not Disney, okay? And this little girl was like 4'10". I mean, tiny, helpless. I had a protective feeling about her, and never once, took advantage of anything. I just kept an eye out for her. Well, she had her flock, and something started killing her chickens. She gets in touch with me frantic. Something's killing my chickens. This is bad. We're not going to be able to pay our car payment and all this if I can't take these to market. And I said, well, what's going on? Well, first of all, something reached in to the coop and ripped the head off a chicken. I said, well, that's going to be a raccoon. It could be a possum, but it's more than likely a raccoon. She said, what do I do? I said, well, you're going to have to trap them. Fortunately for her, in the barn were a couple old traps, and she set one out. The first night she caught 2 big raccoons. I mean, she did, and she walked out with a .22 and shot them, and that was it. And then, much to my surprise and to my admiration, I guess you could say, she skinned those raccoons and cooked them and fed herself and her children with them. That's the reality of trapping. A week later, she caught a coyote. She calls up the local wildlife control management, whatever it is, the warden in her area, essentially, and says, what do? I caught this coyote. He's coming in to kill my turkeys. He said, shoot it. And she's like, okay, I just did that. Okay, we got a dead coyote. Now what do I do with it? And he said, well, that fur, it's wintertime. That fur is worth about $100. Are you comfortable skinning it? And she said, absolutely, I can skin it. I just skinned a raccoon. Why can't I skin a coyote? This little girl is tough. And, I mean, absolutely had my full admiration and regard. And he said, well, there's actually a community around here. It's an Asian community. And they have an interest in buying coyote meat. He says, no, you can't sell it as meat, but you can sell the carcass to them, and after that they do with it whatever they please. And she says, well, all right, I'm on board. She sold the carcass for $75. So, she set out a trap. I told her how to do it. And she ended up with valuable fur and sold the meat to a community that was interested in that meat. Under, we would call that under the table. It's not legal to sell coyote meat as meat. But some cultures have a taste for it. We'll just put it that way. The guy came out to her farm, picked it up. He said, I'll take every one you can get me. And she trapped all the coyotes off her land, and that family survived the winter and had food on the table. So, if you grew up on Disney movies and you've seen all the YouTube videos, you may think, oh, trapping is horribly inhumane. What was more humane? Take out coyotes, which are an invasive predator. They're not native to the eastern United States. She was in South Carolina. Used to be there weren't any coyotes east of the Mississippi. Let the coyotes kill her flock of chickens and turkeys, and that family starves. Or take advantage of your natural resources, pay the bills, and some people get fed. And somebody else took that pelt and turned it into a nice coat and kept them warm. These are things that, in herbal podcasts and herbal medicine podcasts, we don't talk about a lot, but we're always harvesting natural resources, whether it is plants or it's animals and fish or it's wood, you name it. You got a pair of leather shoes? Where do you think that leather came from? I mean, people should really be wearing fur coats, and shame on the so-called animal rights activists who have, thrown paint at people and made people feel like they can't wear fur. It's actually extremely humane. It's actually extremely responsible for the environment. And it's actually extremely good for those animal populations. I mean, think about this. What animals are endangered in this world? Panda bears, I don't know, blue whales, horned owls, gorillas, I guess. I mean, think about it. What animals do come to mind when you think of what's endangered? What animals are not endangered and will never be endangered? Chickens, cows, dogs and cats, goldfish. Where am I going with this? Well, the reason those animals will never be endangered is because we either use them for food, use them for leather, or keep them as pets. Those that we don't are in continual jeopardy. If you want to save a species, make it popular as food or clothing, or as a pet. And then people will breed it and protect it and make sure their habitat is fine. I know it's the opposite way of thinking, but returning to trapping for a second, probably the most popular trap in North America is called a body grip or conibear trap, which is basically just a big mouse trap, an instant kill trap. Now, if you've ever had mice in your house, you know what it's like to set a mouse trap. It's the exact same way people trap beavers. Instant kill, no suffering, no confinement, nothing. Just boom, they're dead. It is the most humane death an animal can experience. Does that statement shock you? If it does, you have not spent any time in the woods. You have not seen a doe with its guts literally ripped out, intestines hanging out because of a coyote. You have not seen what happens to any animal when it gets old or sick in the wilderness, eaten alive by bugs or other animals. You haven't seen animals eat each other, their own young. Animals can be very cannibalistic. If you don't believe that, keep a flock of chickens and just, wait till you see one pecked to death and eaten by the other chickens. An instant kill trap or a hunter's bullet skillfully placed is the most humane death an animal can experience. All the animal rights activists out there are full of crap. In fact, the main animal charities, I'm not saying, I'm going to say, for instance, the Humane Society or the ASPCA. For instance, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. But let's say those are the ones that solicit the most money to have animal shelters and try to prevent, animal abuse and all that. They euthanize and kill more animals than all the hunters and trappers in America on an annual basis. So you think we need to take care of animals, animal rights, and, I don't ever want to see an animal abused or mistreated. Absolutely not. But those dollars you're giving to those charities that are supposed to be protecting the animals are actually just killing them. And they're not using them for food. And they're not using them for clothing. They're not using them for anything, even compost to grow vegetables. If you really care about animals and animal rights and animal welfare, you need to become a hunter. You need to raise your own livestock. You need to become a trapper. You need to become a fisherman or angler or whatever you want to call it. Those are the people that actually care about animals. Why? Because they have a financial incentive. You don't kill the goose that lays the golden eggs, right? All right, so when our ancestors came to America, they found after fur, sassafras, and it became the biggest export to Europe. It was thought to cure syphilis, and Western Europe had a huge syphilis problem. Also, helps with fevers and sore throats, and sassafras is a very, very good, nutritious, excellent herbal medicine. But even though our government tries to tell us it isn't, literally, sassafras root beer combined with the next herb we're going to talk about, sarsaparilla, was the beverage of the United States for almost 200 years, only next to liquor. America was founded and grown by people who drank a lot of alcohol. And root beers, because we don't have a great climate for growing barley and such, we couldn't do the ales of England. Root beers, birch, sassafras, sarsaparilla predominantly, a couple others you could throw in there. Basically, just make a strong tea of it, those roots, mix it with sugar, add some yeast, let it ferment, were what our ancestors lived on when they weren't drinking hard liquor. Our government sometime around 1969-70 decided to do some crazy experiment where they gave lab rats the equivalent of about 50 gallons of highly concentrated sassafras per day, and in extremely concentrated form, and they got cancer. And they say, well, sassafras causes cancer, and they pulled it all from the market. You cannot buy or sell sassafras legally in the United States anymore. That is as stupid as people who think nature's like a Bambi movie, okay? Deer are not good parents, and sassafras is not bad for you. In my opinion, you do your own research, whatever. Standard disclaimer, right? As they removed sassafras from the market, they also started pulling sarsaparilla. The root beers that you get now are artificial, nothing more than corn syrup soft drinks. A real root beer was made with real roots. And sarsaparilla, which is a member of the Smilax family, is an adaptogenic herb, very similar to spikenard and ginseng. When it comes down to it, most, if not all, members of the Smilax family are very closely related to the Aralia family and have adaptogenic properties. Now, some people say they don't, but I don't see that they have any research to back it up. All I can tell you is through my research for a good 150 years in early America, I mean 150 years, I mean we're talking 1700s through all 1920s at least. People used all the Smilaxes interchangeably and called them sarsaparilla, even though the true sarsaparilla comes from South America. The Native Americans used them interchangeably. They said they had the same properties. The settlers, the early Americans, the early industrial Americans, they all used these plants interchangeably. And now we look at them as weeds. Now we try to poison them. We try to pull them up. We try to burn them because they're thorny and they scratch us. Well, maybe we ought to be using them, because even if the roots of every single member of the Smilax family are not as potent as true sarsaparilla, the plants are all edible. Really, green briar is one of my favorite wild edibles. And I like it especially because it's not one that you just have to harvest in the spring when the leaves, just come out and real tender. Yeah, it's the best then. But you can pick it throughout the year. There is probably not a single day at any time of year when I can't walk outside, spot a briar, pull off the leaves, bring them in, boil them, add a little pork fat, and enjoy. I mean, or olive oil or whatever. They have I don't know, how would I put it, a more toothsome texture than, say, spinach. I mean, you bite into it, you got something between your teeth. They have a slight mucilaginous quality, which is very soothing to the stomach. They have the flavor of spinach, or maybe collard greens. I mean, it's somewhere in between. It's not quite as mild as spinach. It's not quite as strong as collards. You're eating a green leafy plant. They're not like super tender, like you're going to use them in a salad, but cooked, they're really actually fantastic. I have made soup out of them. I have eaten them, just plates of them. And they're really delicious, actually. I mean, I've just eaten plates of them by themselves, just with a little salt and vinegar. I have made burritos. I have made, I put them on hamburgers. I mean, Smilax leaves are just really, really good. And the young shoots of the vines, when they're just coming up, are as well. There are 22 varieties with documentation in herbal medicine. That would include proper sarsaparilla, that's Smilax aspera. That grows in South America. There is a similar variety that grows in Mexico, which is also called sarsaparilla. Not necessarily the exact same variety, but so similar nobody can really tell them apart. There is earleaf greenbrier. There is Smilax bona nox. That is the one you're going to run into most. Okay, that means Smilax good night, bona nox. I don't know who thought that would give you a good night, because if you wander into it in the woods in the middle of the night, it's going to scratch the hell out of you. There's common greenbrier. There's Smilax glabra. That's probably the second most common. There's green catbrier, probably the third most common in the United States. Another one called sarsaparilla, carrion flower, which is really interesting. It's the one that gets that big bunch of berries on it. The flower smells like rotting meat. It actually does that to attract a specific fly that pollinates it. Other than that, other than the nasty stench of the flower, interchangeable. Nice big roots, very medicinal. Leaves are delicious. Smilax hispida, also called hag briar. Isn't that nice? Smilax china, that's a Chinese variety that's gotten into the United States. Smilax lancifolia, you'll see that a lot. That means a lanceolate-shaped leaf. Laurifolia, also called laurel greenbrier. That means a laurel-shaped leaf. Nipponica, that's one that came here from Japan, that's taken root. Riparia means it grows by the river. Rotundifolia, that's another very common. It's called horsebriar. It has big leaves. bristly green briar. There's so many. I mean, there's so many. And I mean, we're literally just killing these plants. I mean, native to my region, I have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 that are true natives, and probably a dozen more that have been introduced, whether purposely or by mistake. So, all of these have properties that are at least somewhat similar to sarsaparilla. That's spelled sarsaparilla. Okay, but it's pronounced sarsaparilla. So I'm going to talk about sarsaparilla. I may talk a little bit about the others, but we're going to look at these because I want you to understand you're out there like spraying these suckers with Roundup, and it's basically like you have a gold mine full of ginseng in your backyard. Okay? At least health-wise. I mean, you're not going to be able to sell it like ginseng, but health-wise, I mean, you would probably go out and spend a year's worth of good quality ginseng taken in tablet form. Is going to cost you good $200-300, right? You're taking it every day or whatever. Meanwhile, you're killing a plant that essentially has almost identical properties. So, sarsaparilla is one of those legendary New World herbs. So popular, fortunes were made exporting the herbs, and stories telling of its almost magical powers to increase health and vitality became part of folklore. Like you can think about the Old West, cowboy or gunfighter, I mean, he's been out on the trail for a week. He walks into the tavern and he's just worn out, right? He might order a whiskey. Very often he would order sarsaparilla and or root beer, and it wasn't a soft drink. In those old taverns, they usually had hookers upstairs. He was getting ready to go upstairs, and that would do the trick. I mean, seriously. It's an adaptogen. It's going to help, give you some energy and pep you up and get things working. And there was when a cowboy walked into a bar and he ordered a sarsaparilla, nobody looked at him and think, oh, he's ordering a soft drink. I mean, it was a manly drink. It was literally said to put hair on your chest. And these plants do have some testosterone supporting components. They have some saponins in them. So, that said, I guess I should say that for the first 150 years of that culture in America, more than likely the root beer didn't have sarsaparilla in it at all, because sarsaparilla was coming out of, Peru and Mexico. I mean, what they used was our native greenbriers, pretty much any one of them, and they were all used interchangeably. That kind of makes things difficult, like if you're in a laboratory, you're trying to test, these plants to see what their medicinal properties are. Well, how do you know which one they were actually using? I mean, there are 30, 40, 50 varieties of Smilax, greenbrier, and Aralias, which can be, spikenard to devil's club. I mean, and include ginseng and, what did we talk about last week? Schisandra. That's also an Aralia. All of these plants have adaptogenic properties, but you could test one and the other plant you were using, which you thought was sarsaparilla, had different properties, and the other one you called sarsaparilla was, none of them were true sarsaparilla, and they could all be cat briar or horse briar, or one of them might be spikenard, or, that's where we really cannot take a lot of the documentation on sarsaparilla and the Smilax and Aralia families at face value, because chemists are not botanists, and botanists generally don't harvest the herbs themselves. They get something in a dried form, and they can't tell one from the other. They may be able to tell one's bigger than the other, or darker than. They don't know what plants what, unless the guy in the field actually wrote the right name on it. They have no idea. So, true sarsaparilla is Smilax ornata. It is a Smilax, just like all the green briars. All the green briars. It's really, in documented medicine, it's impossible to tell them apart because people did not know what they had in their hands. And they may say, well, this does not increase, stamina, but it does lower blood pressure. And the next one may do both or neither or something else. I can only tell you to start using your briars. Okay, you're going to have to do your own research on this. Now, modern use of true sarsaparilla, Plants for a Future says the root is alterative. Of course, that means gradually brings you back to health. Demulcent means softening. Depurative, basically the same thing. Diaphoretic means helps with fever. Diuretic gets rid of excess fluid. Stimulant and tonic. It is one of the best depurative medicine. It is used as a springtime tonic and general body cleanser, usually with woody nightshade. That's Solanum dulcamara, basically bittersweet, its cousin. The root has all the medicinal virtues of the widely used tropical herb sarsaparilla. I guess we're talking now, what is this? This is American sarsaparilla, which they don't even define. And they're saying tropical sarsaparilla. It has the same virtues. So, okay, so let's just go on. But to a lesser degree, so not as strong as the one from South America. That's fine. It's still free. Your neighbor would probably pay you to go pull those briars out of his yard. It is often used as an adulterant to that plant. In other words, all those root beers, the sarsaparilla beverages, it was used interchangeably. The ripe fruits are squeezed and applied to the skin in the treatment of scabies. That's much like the berries of the carrion flower. Greenbrier, the root is diuretic, has been used in the treatment of dropsy and urinary complaints. A tea made from the root is used in helping expel afterbirth. Reports that the root contains the hormone testosterone have not been confirmed. I really should have brought this up. I said that it does have sarsaparilla, and we can basically say the entire Smilax family has some saponins that may increase testosterone. That has not been proven. When I worked in a vitamin store in the 90s, early 2000s, the bodybuilders, the muscled up guys that were taking steroids would come in and buy every bit of anything we had that has sarsaparilla in it. They swore by it. I'll leave that to your own discretion. He says they might contain the steroid precursors. That's my supposition as well. The thorns, all these thorny plants have often been used by people as a counter irritant. Like when you, like how you might use nettles if you have like bad arthritis. Basically you prick and irritate the skin to bring more circulation to that area to help with pain. Nettles work a little bit better in that case because, anyway, not a use I will ever hope to use it for. I prefer not to be pricked by thorns. But if that's your thing. He said it's good for localized pain, muscle cramps, and twitching. A tea made from the leaves and stems has been used as a general tonic and also in the treatment of rheumatism and stomach problems. The wilted leaves are applied as a poultice to boils. Now for cat briar, they say the stem prickles have been, counter irritant again. Tea made for to treat, rheumatism, stomach problems, poultice for boils, may have hormone precursors for testosterone. Carrion flower. Eating the fruit is said to be an effective treatment for hoarseness. The parched and powdered leaves have been used as dressing on burns. The wilted leaves have been used as a dressing on boils. The root is analgesic. A decoction has been used in the treatment of back pain, stomach complaints, lung disorders, and kidney problems. So, that's just 3 members of the common greenbrier family in America. Now, Physician's Desk Reference for Herbal Medicine lists sarsaparilla as Smilax species. So I want you to think about this. This is the big, like, 7-pound book. I mean, the thing is freaking huge. It has all the clinical studies, and doctors are supposed to use it to look up to see what herbs do and how they may, contraindicate with medications, etc. Right? This is the PDR, the physician's desk reference. Lists sarsaparilla as Smilax species. In other words, according to the most respected medical authority in America, all Smilax are sarsaparilla. Now, I mean, I have read books by herbalists that say, do not confuse this variety of Smilax with sarsaparilla. And it's like, why? They don't know. They're just saying that they're two different plants. But the physician's desk reference says they're all used interchangeably. It says, and then it also says that Aralias are sarsaparilla. So the entire, spikenard, ginseng, all the Aralias, Schisandra, it's crazy. But that just means that in a laboratory, they can't tell them apart. And we're spraying them with Roundup. I mean, how crazy is this? Right? I mean, wow. Anyway, it says medicinal use of bristly sarsaparilla, and that is actually an Aralia. Tea made from the leaves is diaphoretic. Root is alterative and tonic. Infusion of the root bark has been used in the treatment of heart diseases. The bark, especially the root bark, is diuretic and tonic, etc. I'm back to plants for future now. Wild sarsaparilla, yet another Smilax. No, this is an Aralia, if I'm not mistaken. California spikenard, if I'm not mistaken. Wild sarsaparilla is a sweet, pungent, tonic herb that acts as an alternative. It has a wide range of traditional uses among Native American Indians and was one time used as a substitute for the tropical medicinal herb sarsaparilla, obviously. Alternative, diuretic, pectoral means good for chest conditions and stimulant. The herb encourages sweating. Well, this is one that really helps break a fever and has some detoxifying properties. So, wow. Oh, okay. Another one that's in the Aralia family is Devil's Walking Stick, or American sarsaparilla. Yes. You want to confuse people? Okay, is it Smilax or Aralia? They're all sarsaparilla. Anyway, Michael Moore said that it was a relative of spikenard. Looks a little more like ginseng. And he said all Aralias are adaptogens, used as an alternative to build up weak people, stimulate diminish stress between the brain, hypothalamus, limbic system, and pituitary, minimizes limbic stress, not as strong as ginseng or dong quai, but good long term. You can't use dong quai long term. It's a licorice. Basically, it quiets non-specific stress so the body doesn't react. Helps modulate blood sugar spikes, and adrenaline spikes, and insulin. Also good for the GI tract and respiratory stress. Then he gets into bristly sarsaparilla, also called as Aralia hispida, or wild elder. Now, elder is obviously a tree. There's several smaller plants called elder. It's really basically anything spiky. Except for a locust tree. You at some point you want to say we're basically talking anything with thorns that isn't a rose or a locust tree, right? But if it's a green briar, don't kill it. Use it. I got a lot more information on sarsaparilla. Culpeper in the 1600s. You like it as an eye wash, good for the kidneys. Like to make a wine out of the berries. That's something I've never even tried before. Good for fluxes or mucus in the head and brain, he said. Griefs of the stomach, 1600s England. So, Miss Grieve got very into sarsaparilla in the 1930s in her Modern Herbal, and she lists. I'm just going to give you the medicinal uses for American sarsaparilla, which is basically our green briars. Alternative pectoral diaphoretic sudorific means it helps induce sleep. Used as a substitute for Smilax sarsaparilla. Is useful in pulmonary disease and externally as a wash for indolent ulcers and shingles. Used by the Crees under the name of rabbit foot for syphilis and as an application to recent wounds. She then goes on to list a Jamaican variety, an Indian variety, that's India, the continent, Smilax medica, Mexican sarsaparilla. I mean, the Cherokee used the roots of Smilax. Saw briar was one that they listed for local pains, cramps, twitching, and for dreams of animals. The Cherokee have used a lot of herbs for dreaming about weird stuff. We're not going to get into that. And also for the bad disease, whatever the hell that was. It was literally, it's written in the old book, Medicinal Plants of the Cherokee, as the bad disease. No idea. And especially Smilax rotundifolia, the big leaf one, for stomach issues. Now, Resources of the Southern Fields and Forests just says the Smilax tribe. Boom, all of them together, right? Yeah, I'm just like, wow, it's just too much, actually. He lists, the botanist lists, I don't know, a dozen varieties, and pretty much covers the same uses we've done. He does talk about how the carrion flower stinks, which it does. Jethro Kloss used Smilax officinalis, which was coming from Jamaica at the time. Alternative diuretic, emulsant, antisyphilitic, stimulant, and antiscorbutic. That means it has vitamin C. We beasties. Botany Today says, medicinally, a tea of the root is listed as diaphoretic, carminative, diuretic, and a blood purifier, and has been used in the production of root beer. Y'all, I'm going to leave it there. Root beer made with the roots of real Smilax and Aralia is really one of the very best beverages, most nutritious, medicinal, really good. The stuff you buy in the can or the bottle from a grocery store or a soda machine is nothing more than corn syrup and artificial flavors. It's really easy to make. In my books, I've got some root beer recipes. You can certainly find them online. There's so many. But instead of killing those briars and cussing them and getting all upset when you're, cutting the grass and you get scratched, learn to use them. Use the roots medicinally. Use the shoots and leaves as an edible. I'm telling you. It's good stuff. Honestly, actually very good stuff. All right, y'all. Have a great week. Stay warm and dry. It's an awful cold, rainy day here. I will talk to you next time. Go eat some briars. There's an old saying, grinning like a mule eating briars. Well, don't eat the briars with the prickles. You don't want to be grinning like a mule eating briars, but that mule probably has a lot more sense than most people. I mean, you think about the cowboys and the sarsaparilla. I always remember the quote by John Wayne, life's tough. It's tougher when you're stupid, Pilgrim. So have a good one. I'll talk to you next time. Maybe I'll do my Jimmy Stewart. The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, for your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.